moving on, Alec Argento. Talk about the New York Mets. What a ending. What a poor way to end.
Embarrassment.
As you'll have your turn in a second. What a poor way to end a season that was so fun and exciting for so long, right? To just give a quick preface before you can go in on whatever you want to say. So many years you look at a baseball season and there's true like major ebbs, major flows, ups and downs, the whole nine. We get that. That's baseball, Susan. This year with the Mets was a consistent year of success. Was there one point in time that I felt even more confident than others? Perhaps the peak of the Trumpets was pretty good when the offense was doing pretty good and he was just shutting people down, striking out 2 guys every inning. Insanity, right? That was the peak. But other than that, there wasn't a lot of valleys, and this team's been good the whole time. However, there's been an underlying offensive issue with this team the entire time, and it bared its ugly head when they couldn't hit against the Padres and lost in embarrassing fashion against the Braves before the playoffs even started. So, Alec Argento, I asked you the question here. Was this season truly a failure and collapse for the New York Mets, or was there enough to see out of this team and franchise to feel confidence moving forward?
Okay, so I'm going to try to contain my excitement here. First of all, you and Drew owe me an apology because what I said in the last pod, I was belittled for saying they had no shot at winning. Totally validated in that.
You also said they were going to beat the Padres, by the way.
Sure, but I said they had no shot at winning the World Series, and it came earlier than I expected. But let's not pick apart what I said there because the overarching theme was absolutely correct. Is this a failure? It is a top 5 Mets failure. That's something to say. Because that's in a laundry list of a lot of really catastrophic seasons. But you have to think about it and where the Mets are and what the expectations are. This is not a young, up-and-coming team. This is an old-ass team with a lot of free agents at the end of this year. They went all in, and they struck out big time. They got embarrassed at home in front of a stadium that couldn't sell out to its own fans. That's crazy. You have Mr. Met playing the trumpet when they're down by 4 with 2 men on before Edwin Diaz immediately brings in 2. It was so embarrassing to the point where Buck Showalter had to make an excuse for why his team wasn't hitting to bring the entire umpire staff onto the pitching mound to say, hey, couldn't be us the reason we can't be hitting. It is a gigantic failure. And, I thought a lot about what we said in the last pod where you said it can't, it's not that the Mets blew anything. It was that the Braves were on a monumental pace. I call bullshit on that because the Mets had the ability to control their own destiny there. They had to win one game with their amazing pitching staff of Max Scherzer and Jacob deGrom. They couldn't do it. Chris Bassett shit the bed. He was so embarrassing. Before the series even started, he was complaining about how hard it is to pitch in New York. That ain't gonna fly here. It's not gonna fly here when you go in Game 3 and you don't do anything and you give up 4 runs in 5 innings or whatever it was. A complete and utter embarrassment and unequivocally a failure.
Well, I have a lot of things to say.
Go for it.
First of all, my dude's ears were shiny as hell. You actually pointed it out.
No, it was Drew.
It was Drew. However, embarrassing nonetheless. Embarrassing. 100% embarrassing. You hate to see it. As a Mets fan, we cringed. And then you said, maybe, look at those shiny ass ears, man. Hold on. There's a chance. But then people were going back in the tape and saying he never even went to his ears in between pitches and he never wasn't even doing that. So it's embarrassing. That stinks. That stinks bad. This team is old. That's 100% true.
Oldest team in the league.
Yeah, and all year long, when we're talking about the Yankees, when they were on their downswing, we're talking about the oldness of the Yankees. However, the Mets were basically just as old. They were very similar in average age. The counter to that would only be that Alvarez is waiting in the wings, Vientos is waiting in the wings, Beatty's waiting in the wings. They're toss-ups. You never know what's going to happen with prospects, even if you feel really good about it. Whatever. I believe, though, with a franchise with the amount of disappointment that they've had over the last 15 years, right? To bring in a new coach, to put this roster together, to only have Jacob deGrom for 11 starts this year, to win 101 games is something to look at as a positive, right? And if you think
101 meaningless games. They might as well have won 83 games to be in the position that they were. They had a 13-game lead for where the second, so they still could have had it, and it amounted to nothing. You didn't even win the division. A
yeah,
while,
of course it amounted to nothing, but every team outside of two are going to say we won nothing this year, right? Two teams will say
that's not
they
true.
made the World Series.
There's 6 teams that can say they won the division.
So if the Braves go ahead and lose now to who do
At
they
least they
have?
won the division. At least they won a World Series last year.
Well, of course, they won a World Series last year. That's a bad example. The Dodgers losing this round to the
They
Padres.
won
That's
a
a
World
failure.
Series 2 years ago.
That's a failure this year, though. But you're moving the goalpost, and I'm saying if success is a ladder, right? If it's a ladder, and every time you check something off, you move up the ladder. You know, getting to 100 wins is a checkpoint. Getting into the playoffs is a checkpoint.
It doesn't work
You
like that
fall
in
off
baseball.
the ladder and get nothing done.
Pete, it doesn't work like that in baseball.
Why not? Because you're
isn't
working with a franchise who's had 3 playoff appearances in the past 15 years. 3 playoff appearances in the last 15 years. Why is it not
because Steve Cohen set the expectations up for this fan base that you're the new Yankees, you're the new Dodgers, whatever it is. You're going to pump money into this team to buy a championship. And on paper, he did exactly what you would want him to do. As a Yankee fan for a long time, I can tell you there's a lot of shittiness that comes with that mentality, like the Yankees tax. Now it's I'm not going to call it the Cohen tax because that's a different thing with the with the luxury tax. But teams don't want to work with you. You have to pay more to get whoever you want to get. That reared its ugly head at the trade deadline. Like, this is what happened there. So like baseball isn't a ladder when you're trying to go all in for a season, because if you swing and miss, you're setting yourself up for failure next year. So you can't say that it's a ladder, because next year you're not going to have DeGrom. Everyone knows it. It's the worst kept secret in baseball. Everyone knows that DeGrom is gone. You're not going to re-sign Bassett after the shit, the shit that he pulled in the last couple of weeks of the season. And then Marte is a free agent too, isn't he? Right? No, I don't think he's a free agent, but I think he might have whatever.
Nimmo is, though.
Nimmo's gone. Nimmo's gone too. I mean, he's going to get a big contract somewhere else. Like, you're going to have to start from scratch. And like, okay, you say you do have top prospects in baseball all over the place, but again, take it from a Yankee fan.
They're not a given. I'll admit, I admitted that already. They're not.
No, I agree. But like, take it from a Yankee fan. We had 15, like our last 15 top 100 prospects. 4 of them are good to great, right? I mean, it is what it is. Like, it's such a crapshoot. So yeah, exactly. So like, it's not a ladder when you go all in. This isn't basketball where it's going to be nonlinear, where you're going to have up years and down years because you're starting from the draft. Like, it doesn't work like that. You take a swing on big free agents, you better hit on them. And now, like, I don't think you can see that you need more than just Pete Alonso to be a home run hitter on that team. They need to get an Aaron Judge. I don't think Aaron Judge is going to go to the Mets. I think that would be a bad PR move for him to do that. And I think he's good at PR. And he can get the money wherever he wants to go. So like, they need an Aaron Judge. They need someone who is going to hit dingers for them consistently and can hit for average. Because if you're just going to slap the ball around, we know that now you can't do that in the playoffs. This team is not built for playoff success. We thought it was because of DeGrom and Scherzer. Scherzer can't can't pitch in the playoffs anymore because he's 50 years old. It happened last year, happened this year. Willing to bet a lot of money that it's going to happen again next year. So great, you have him for $43 million, but like, that's not going to get you anywhere, clearly.
Yeah, and well, it would be disingenuous to me to say that the window is wide open. That would be disingenuous. I wouldn't come out here and say the Mets championship window is still clearly open. It's not. And I've talked about this in other sports. I've talked about it with the Yankees, how that window is never as open as you think it is. And you could argue that this is a wake-up call for Steve Cohen and for this Mets franchise. Oh, we thought we did all these things. Turns out we didn't do nearly enough. And there are people who have been disappointed with the trade deadline for the Mets. And I think this is a reason for that to never happen again, for that to be a key point moving forward to make the team better. Because realistically, yeah, they made the DH spot a little bit better at the trade deadline. Vogelbach was nice little addition. He did well, but nothing else really worked out. And Ruff was horrible. Naquin was a nobody after the first couple weeks, and Vogelbach is a decent hitter. He's
decent, but that's the thing too. He's not even good. He's decent.
Right. He's decent and had a couple really good weeks for sure.
Sure.
Oh, this window is not wide open. It's not closed, however, either, because there is still Lindor, Marte, Alonso. If they bring back Nimmo, they have McNeil. they have to figure out what they're going to do with some of those returning guys. Taijuan Walker might be gone. That's fine. You'll live. Bassett might be gone. You probably can find another Bassett out there. You got to now see what they do. This might be a wake-up call for this franchise that what they did that they thought was all this great stuff wasn't nearly enough. And I can't sit here and say that winning 100 games and finding some of this stuff out about who you really had in the clubhouse is some sort of huge negative. Yeah, it's incredibly disappointing and a failure for sure. But to say that it means nothing and this franchise doesn't have a reasonable lane to respond.
Did more harm than good. Did more harm than good.
How did it do more harm than good?
Because you set this team up to think that it was something different. You came in to build a different culture. You thought that 100 wins was going to build a different culture, and it amounted to the same Mets narrative that happens year over year over year, which is they choked it away. To me, this is barely different than last year. Barely. They spent 158 days out of the 162 in first place. They were not good enough to win that division. Like I hate this narrative that the Braves just like they were on a historic run or they
were on a historic run.
But they started as one of the worst teams in the league. So like they had to be. You had a big lead. I understand it was June 1st when they had that 10.5 game lead, but like Yankees lived off the lead that they made in April for the entire year, right? They had 2 really crappy months this year, but because like when they had to put their foot on the gas, they won the games that they needed to win and then won the division.
Nobody was on their ass in your division. Like
the Yankees had the best division in baseball. The AL East.
They didn't have the number 2. They didn't have the
lead went down to like 4 games, like multiple times. And when the Yankees were losing like crazy,
not because the Rays were on a 114 win pace for 3 months.
Pete, the Rays, the entire division was over 500 for the vast majority of the year. At the end of the year, the Red Sox went under.
There was no dead weight. There was no dead weight in your division.
We didn't have a Nationals in like it was by far the toughest division in baseball, and the Yankees won it handily. And like. I don't see how it's comparable. Like the Mets blew the division. Like you have to concede.
The division. The Mets
it wasn't
the
Braves
division in the final 2 weeks of the season. They blew, and I feel comfortable saying that they blew it in the sweep against the Cubs where they lost 3 in a row. They blew it losing 2 out of 3 to the Pirates.
Pittsburgh.
They blew it losing to the Braves head to head.
But that doesn't even matter. Those games don't even matter because
they do matter. 100% matter.
No, I understand what you're saying, but
they literally matter. 100%.
I know what you mean. But what I'm saying is all they had to do was win 1 game when it counted and 3 against the Braves. Every team loses to a shitty team here and there. Every team gets swept here and there.
Not by the Cubs.
The Yankees did.
If they don't get swept by the Cubs and they don't get swept by the Braves, they win the division. You know?
I mean, but there's like that's
a million, right? You're right.
That's baseball. That's baseball.
What ifs?
When it came to them actually having to put up or shut up in the 2 series that mattered this year, the only 2 series that mattered, which was that last Brave series and this Padres series, they embarrassed themselves in front of everyone in the nation watching baseball. I watched those games. I watched every second of all 6 of those games. They embarrassed themselves. So every team loses to a Pirates, to a Cubs every year. It happens. Nobody's going to go 162-0. I'm not worried about that. But that specific series is the only series that mattered. And if they did that, they'd have they would have had home field advantage throughout the playoffs for almost entirely, except for a Dodgers series. And they wouldn't have had to play the buzzsaw the entire time. They would have had a week off to get healthy. They wouldn't have had to put Starling Marte out there hurt. Scherzer wouldn't have been hurt, if you believe that, going into that first game. And also, another thing, too, as a complete aside, they tried to get so silly with that rotation for this series. They didn't take the Padres seriously at all. They put out Scherzer when you should have put DeGrom. You put DeGrom in that game, DeGrom pitches like he did. That's a different series because you set the momentum the way you need to and your back's not against the wall. They're talking about, we shouldn't play DeGrom because, we'll save him for the next series. What a load of malarkey. You put your best pitcher out there for the first game because you set the pace. And if it's a 3-game series, you have to win 2 games. You win 1, you're halfway done instead of having to win 2 in a row.
I can't argue with some of that. I can't argue with some of that. And as much as I want to be on here and just argue with you about some of the stuff, you're not wrong about a lot of it. You're not. And
I'm
that's
never
why
wrong.
that's not true. That's why I said it would be disingenuous for me to say that the window's not closed or closing rapidly, because it's closed a lot, right? If the window was cracked all the way open on a breezy day in the spring, now you pushed it down and it got a little crack open still. And that's why I'm saying, like, is Buck Showalter still the manager of this team? Yes.
I don't know. I don't know if you can keep it. He is.
What are you
He
going to
was.
do? What are you going to fire Buck Showalter after 1 year?
Well, hey, Steve Cohen wants to be George Steinbrenner. George Steinbrenner would have
Who's
fired
he
him
bringing
after a
in?
year.
Who's he bringing in?
know.
Carlos
I don't know.
Beltran comes back. His stock
Take him
ain't
out
up.
of the Yankee booth.
Yeah, his stock ain't up, right? Like what are you gonna do? There's not like there's some glorious option out there. And Buck
Can I ask
Showalter
you a question?
was
Can I ask
manager
you
of
a
the year
question?
for so many years throughout the season.
Do you think a better manager lets them win that series? I do.
No,
I
I
I
don't.
I do. I think they got downtrodden. I've seen this with Boone. Like I'm not saying the Yankees are impervious to this, but like when morale is down, like this is what as much as I hate him, Alex Cora is fantastic at. He gets those guys to believe they can come back from anywhere. Look at what the Mariners did. Like no lead was insurmountable for them. Like that's what makes a good manager, and that's what makes a team that believes in themselves and is riding a high and everything like that, versus a team that feels like, oh, we can just do whatever we want to do because we got the names. And that's what you bring Buck in for.
Yeah,
Right?
I feel like that's a little bit of just playing the results, and what Andrew
Fair.
said in the chat is true. You know, as much as you want to get on Boone for that, like those hitters got to hit and those pitchers got to pitch. When you have Scherzer doesn't matter who his manager is, right? Like, does Buck Showalter changing the outcome of Max Scherzer? No.
No, but like I said before, though, like you
Putting
should have had
DeGrom in,
to you should
yes.
have had DeGrom in game one. Like that's a no-brainer. That's a no-brainer.
The way they looked at it was DeGrom just had a blister. He came out early, and now let's give him
But
one more
Scherzer
day.
had an oblique.
Scherzer is a 1-2 as well, a 1 as well, right? So that was a bad decision, perhaps, yes, but it was a decision that didn't make no sense. Like, it's not like it was the completely most ridiculous decision, like the Chargers going for it on 4th and 2 on their own side of the field, like where everybody was like, "What the hell are you doing?" Right? Like, that's not the same. So I don't think that Buck lost the series. I think the players lost the series because they didn't hit and the pitchers got shelled, gave up home run after home run after home run to players who aren't very good, frankly, either. Grisham batted
baby.
160 on the year and had 2 home runs and multiple hits against this team. So, you know, is that Buck Showalter's fault? I don't think so. I don't think there's another option out there that's better than Buck Showalter right now, because all year long he was one of the best managers in the league. Oh, we love how he uses his gut and analytics, and he combines this and that, and the old school and the new school combined together. All these great things to be.
I agree with you. I agree with you in a vacuum. But I agree with you in a vacuum. But like, this team has World Series expectations on it now. You are now and if this was a one-off thing, I get it. Buck Showalter has repeatedly, every time he is ever in the playoffs, not just with the Mets, proven that he does not know how to manage in the playoffs. He is too gut and not enough analytics when it comes to the playoffs. And I don't even know if it's like his gut is like, I don't know. Everyone knows the Zach Britton situation. Right. There was a lot of Zach Britton situations going on in this series.
Well, yes, and some of them were after it was already lost, frankly. You know,
sure, but like Scherzer should have gotten taken out in like the second inning. I forget the exact inning.
The weird thing about the Scherzer stuff was he was striking out like every hitter who wasn't hitting a home run. That was the weird thing about that game. Like, he struck out Juan Soto, got out Manny Machado, and gives up a bomb to fucking Josh Bell. Like, yeah, but, you know, when you strike out Josh Soto and then give up a home run, you're like, all right, that's one bad pitch. We're gonna keep
classic Josh Soto.
And he strikes out somebody else and gives up another home run. Like, in between those home runs, he was striking people out.
But okay, fine. You want to make that argument? I get it. You can make that argument. Yesterday with Bassett, I said in the second inning you got to take him out.
Yeah, Bassett should have been pulled out quicker. I mean, granted, they had already pitched everybody in the pen twice already. You know
okay, but like, your season is on the line. Like,
yes.
Every other MLB team in the playoffs, exactly. You got to be ready to get the hell out of there the second that there's any trouble. Look what the Yankees.
Carrasco or Walker or something.
Yeah, what was it? 2017 with the wild card game. I guess it was the Indians or the Twins. I forget exactly who. When Severino gave up 3 runs in the first inning, they took him out and they won that game because you have to limit the damage. That's what your bullpen guys are in. And if you're good at managing, you know how to mix and match your bullpen.
Yeah. So disappointing all around. Really, really shitty. And now this team hopefully has woken up and said, what we thought we did was enough. It wasn't. We need to do more. And there's probably a good chance that when next year rolls around and they sign who they sign and they don't re-sign who they re-sign, they're going to still probably be looked at as a top 5 contender going into next year. Most
But
likely.
it's not even a good free agency class. Like the
No.
best free agents are on the Yankees and the Mets right now. Like you can get Carlos Correa maybe, but like where are you going to put him? You have Lindor, so he's not going to the Mets. You're not.
Yeah.
I highly doubt. Listen, I have my doubts about Judge. I still think he'll sign, but like I wouldn't be surprised if he goes elsewhere. He's not
He'll
going
go
to the Mets.
Giants. The Giants.
Yeah, he'll not go to the Mets because he's
a California kid. He'll makes sense. Whatever. He goes home.
More importantly, he has an image and he can't turn heel. He has to be a face, right? And if he goes to the Mets, he's turning heel. So you can't do that, and you're gonna lose all your guys. Like it's on, like you're gone with most of your guys, and then the rest of your guys are like free agents the year after. So I don't know what they're gonna do.
Window is closing. The window is closing. It's not closed yet, but the window is closing. They need to figure something out. All right, we got to talk about the Yankees too here before we say goodbye.
Okay.
Got a hard out in about 15 minutes here, so let's go on to the Yankees. And that conversation sucks for me because not the Yankees, the Mets one. It just sucked because we're defeated. I had the worst Sunday, by the way. You said it the best Sunday. I forgot the Giants even won by the time the Mets lost because I did so bad in my bets, 1-4, so bad in fantasy, 1-4. And I was just like, wow, the Giants won. That was today. I thought that was freaking 2 weeks ago. The way that Sunday felt for me, it was eternity. The only saviors that I put $5 on Mark Andrews to score the first touchdown Sunday night. It's the only positive for me on the entire day. But let's talk about the Yankees, Alec.